this. To make a long story short, any other points on that? Then let's get into your journey of then discovering this whole shadow system and where that's led you today. And what is number one on your radar right now, what some of your new investigations are, what you're most concerned about?
Well, okay, sure. Let's just kind of, yeah, like I said, the front end of this thing is amazing, all the ins and outs and everything, which, by the way, I've done. I'm finalizing a book now, and all I'm going to need to do is get a publisher. That may be a trick. I need to get somebody to help me out on the publishing side, because my book is now finally, down to finished. And I'm talking as of maybe 2 weeks ago. And the rough draft of that is what Emilio Estevez had looked at, and his initial statement was that it was the greatest thing that he had read in 5 years. But he vanished on me, and I'm not sure. I think maybe there were some names in the book that were maybe close friends to Martin Sheen and his father, or whatever. But I don't know what happened there. Dropping that off, though, I started chasing this. I realized that these guys were directly involved. This is 1987. They were directly involved with the Contra stuff. I started making contacts with the investigators there. Little by little, what was happening, how I morphed into doing all of the investigations, I was blown away every week, as you have been, by finding out who these people were, and finding out the same guys that did Air America during the war, way back in the Vietnam War. These were the guys that were doing and supplying covert weapons. They considered themselves suppliers of air, and what they meant by that was transportation, aircraft, helicopters, and that type of thing. But in the midst of this, of course, was the supplying of all of the weapons that go into all of the little tiny unrecognizable wars that we carry on over and over and over again worldwide. It's a very small group of guys that are always available, the same as there's a small group of assassins that are always available to remove problems from the scene. So a telephone call will come in, and a guy will pick it up, and they'll simply say, we've got a problem we got to solve, and these guys will go out and eliminate whoever it is that they want to eliminate. Or they have to get weapons to an area. They will call these same specific guys and just say, we're going to start functioning in Angola, and we're going to start functioning here and functioning there, and they set up the necessary secret weapons, etc. And I was finding out on a regular basis that the guys that I dealt with yesterday, that I was chasing, were some of the same guys that I was going to deal with next month, and that they were all interrelated. And it ended up that all of the investigations that I've done over the last 25, 30 years, I ended up being physically involved one way or interconnected one way or another with what I was looking into. And it was usually, it all went back to these same characters that were in Bob Fletcher's toy company.
And tell folks what happened to Sonny Bono.
Sonny's situation was, during this period, again, from the 80s up through the 90s and up to the 2000s, I was involved with many inquiries that the Senate and the Congress were carrying out. I dealt with Dante Faisal as it related to the old October surprise inquiries. I supplied them with material that Barbara Honecker had given me after being unable to do anything. I was involved with that inquiry. I was involved with I did do a thing on the JFK murder because I had gotten some actually footage from a Central Intelligence agent way back in the 80s. What was happening, my name was banging around in the corridors of the Congress and the Senate as somebody that knew this or knew these guys or knew what was going on.
Sure, and they wanted to use you as a conduit to put stuff out because they knew you had the courage to do it.
And Right, and yes, that's right, absolutely. And also they were coming to me and saying, what do you know about this? Do any of your people fit this or fit that? I was even hired by Manuel Noriega's lawyers to do an investigative report for him. And what they were looking for was the connections between him, Manuel Noriega, after he was captured, the connections that he had previously had into the White House and other government levels. I did do that report. I was paid by the lawyers, but they ended up actually not doing anything because they were also in bed with some of the bad guys that I was reporting on. I was asked by Arlen Specter to do a report on the Oklahoma bombing, because when I testified before the United States Senate Intelligence Subcommittee...
See, that's what's crazy. I forget to say I've seen you on C-SPAN. Folks, this sounds... all of this is true. I mean, Bob, I guess in 30 years of fighting tyranny, you have seen so much.
Everything, and like I said, it went from one to another, and they were always some kind of an interrelationship. It was either with an event tied to an event, or people that did A and B were doing C and D.
And then sometimes the people who are actually doing the crime have somebody investigating it because they want to have an investigation and look like they were looking into it so they can spin it and then use it against other people, and they're all blackmailing each other. I've had high-level former, famous spies and others tell me, generals tell me, Jones, the reason you're alive is because, the system, in a way, finds it entertaining, and it's almost a way that everything's just fleshed out so they can look at it from different perspectives, but there's so many different camps involved. No one wants to kill you because you're so well known. Then that can be used to be blackmail against them. So the way it's been put is there's too much paperwork.
There's no question about that. That's absolutely, you're right on with that. Now, there have been a couple of attempts. One guy, one time, when I was in the middle of the Iran-Contras things, et cetera, doing exposés relative to that, a guy drove a station wagon through my sliding glass doors and missed killing me by 3 feet in my office.
That's their favorite way to kill you. Well, I was about to say, if it's a certain case where you've got original data that can get them, that's when they kill you.
That's right. Right, and there's also different ways to do it, and there's 2 or 3 other events, but we'll talk about that some other time. But on Sonny's case, I had delivered... as a matter of fact, it was related to originally I believe probably one of my journeys to Washington, talking to some of the Dante Feisel's people doing, or Henry Gonzalez. I did things relative to the finances when he was connected with the investigating some of the financial garbage going on. He was a congressman out of Texas. Anyhow, the bottom line was somehow we crossed paths. I crossed paths in Washington with one of the guy that ran Sonny's offices, Sonny Bono. And I told him I was working on this major thing connecting the CIA and drugs. Now, this was after the Waco events and all of that stuff. Sonny had become so traumatized when he got up to Washington. Again, he knew about corruption, but he was destroyed when he started finding out how high it went and how deep it went and how extraordinary it was relative to billions and multi-millions of dollars.
I'm going from memory, but didn't he break down and cry over Waco and stuff?
Yes, he did.
And I remember watching him on C-SPAN because I was addicted to C-SPAN at that time, and he was really starting to get in people's faces, and you could tell he was freaking out that he was in the middle of a bunch of crooks.
Yes, he did. He actually broke down and cried. You can look at that from 2 sides. His life and mine were so terribly familiar. I did things in the record business that he did in the record business. He, of course, became much more famous, but nonetheless, he and I ran down mutual railroad lines side by side, like you and I. But anyhow, to get back to what took place there, so I told Sonny was looking into the narcotics, etc., and of course Maxine Waters was doing her theatrical thing relative to it on the floor of the Congress, screaming and yelling about the connections. So at that time now, I was living in Los Angeles. All right, this is early 90s. I had moved to L.A., and Congressman Waters' offices were right close by. I contacted them, and I said, I'm going to finish this report in a couple of weeks. I'm going to give it to you. And I said, now, this names names that you're not going to want to talk about. You know, and they said, which of course I heard that before, they said, oh, we don't care wherever the chips fall, you know, in the name of honesty, you know, and I thought, yeah, ha-ha, on that one. So I supplied her with a copy of this, her offices, and I supplied Sonny. Now, Sonny took a couple of months. In that interim period of time, Waters slowed down and was no longer screaming and yelling about the narcotics being supplied to the streets of America by our high-level government.
Somebody had gotten a message to her, because she was on the news before that, I remember.
Right.
She was going and confronting the CIA director, Mike Rupert was. That was big news then.
Right, and Mike and I are good friends, too, by the way. But, okay, so we go. So she did nothing. As a matter of fact, part of that, believe it or not, something that was missed, but Greenspan, Alan Greenspan, visited her, walked the streets of her backyard in California, in Southern California, and promised her $100 million, if I remember right, financial assistance. Now, I don't know where the heck he's supposed to get that assistance, but they got an awful lot of community assistance exactly in this period of time. I'm talking within a couple of weeks of what I'm talking with the report, and that was the end of her. She never complained anymore. So not to say that that was directly related, but it's very possible.
And for those that don't remember, inner city areas were turned into war zones when the CIA started bringing the crack in, and there were actual people so drugged out they wouldn't eat or even drink that looked like zombies with all their hair falling out. Literally, because I grew up in Dallas and saw a lot of these. They look scarier than actual, fake zombies in movies. So I could see why she was wanting to get the drugs stopped being shipped in. But I mean, that's like putting a Band-Aid on an axe wound to say, oh, here's $100 million for community stuff.
Yeah, I think actually she wanted to just get the credit. I don't know whether she really had a lot of care for that, but for that area. Okay, so I supplied my report to Sonny, and by the way, which is one of the ones that I have available at my website, and that's the one on, it's titled it's titled The CIA and Drugs, et cetera, et cetera. I supplied this in a DVD form. Sonny finally got to look at it. He got back to me. I received an advance information that Sonny had gone over it. He had freaked out and was moving forward to initiate a congressional inquiry based on primarily what I had supplied him with. And there's specifically a few people that he wanted to go after. I said, great, let me know how that happened, what's going on with it. Another month went by or whatever, and I received the call right in the middle of December, and I was told, Bob, Sonny has it all set up. In 3 weeks, when he comes back from the Christmas holidays, we're going to begin the inquiry into all these characters and everything that's going on. We want to make sure you're going to be a witness and that you will assist us to go from there forward. I said, absolutely. I'm in Los Angeles now, but when you need me, you let me know, and I'll be in Washington, and let's go and do it. And the big deal was that Sonny had said that they had